Okay, we are here with an unboxing. This is a new knife for me. This is not loaned in. This is something that I made a deal on. And I'll go more into that story, I think, when I do the full video on this. But basically, I was offered a knife to buy. And so I reached out to somebody who had been asking to buy a knife that I owned. Let me make sure there's not an address on here. I don't know how he packs. So I reached out. He had wanted to buy a knife from me for a while. A couple times he had messaged me. And I said, yeah, I'll get back to you, whatever. And so I reached out and I said, hey, I might. Okay, this is all sealed up. I need a knife. What am I going to pick? How about the RJ Martin Q36SS? Trying not to cut through my mat. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I am considering selling this knife. And it comes with a T5 tool. Really narrow because there's some adjustments on this knife that you can make. So he included the tool with it. So I reached out. I said, hey, I might be selling it. I'm not sure yet, but I might be selling it. He's like, okay, let me know. The next day, I decided not to buy the other knife that I was offered. And so I told him, hey, I decided I'm not going to sell it. He goes, are you sure? Because I got something I might trade for you. So we went back and forth for a couple of days. Eric, thank you. And I've ended up now with a Stan Wilson non-flipper flipper. And I'm in awe. I have handled one of these once. A buddy owned one, and I got to see it at a show. And there's a little bit of a rough spot, which we talked about. He shared as we made the deal. And he goes, oh, there's like a little scuffy thing here. And I'm like, okay. So we worked out the deal and, whatnot. And I'm not even mad about that. Before I even open it, I got to try it in my pocket and see how it fits and how the pocket clip works. Oh man, this thing, it's one of those next level knives, right? So for those of you that are not familiar with a non-flipper flipper, so how do you open this thing? Well, there's a trick. It doesn't have a flipper, but it has a flipper. What? And there's no lock bar. So how do you unlock it? I got to remember myself. So this bolster is to flip it open. Can you see that? The lighting is weird. So this is your flipper tab, this bolster. And then this bolster moves forward. Okay, so this is the flipper. This opens the knife. You pull back and it flips it open. Okay, I did that really slow on purpose, just so you can see how that works. Then on the show side, the bolster flips forwards, slightly forward to unlock it, just barely. If you can see that. Just barely forward, and then it unlocks and you can close it. So I got to get used to this. Like I said, I've only handled one time. And it was for a few minutes at a show. And I said, I really kind of want one. Now, this is an older build. It does have that kind of click because you fire it and then you release it. This thing feels really good in the hand. It's a solid lockup, pretty sharp. Got a little bit of wipe off and it looks great now. I'm really happy with this. It poses a problem though. And since we're here, and we'll talk more about this, but back down in here is that T5, which adjusts the flipper tab action and whatnot. It's really, really crazy how this knife works. Like, it's really, really crazy. The engineering on this is stupid crazy. It's basically a lockback. So you can see the spring here. And it's just the action of twisting this bolster releases that lock. So it's technically a lockback knife, I think. Stan Wilson is an innovator. But the problem it poses is, where do I go from here in my collection? I mean, I have high-end Fisher knives. I have high-end Red Horse Knife Works, RJ Martins, Stan Wilsons, Todd Rexford. Like, where do I go? What more do I own? I've owned I have owned or do own a lot of the top end makers already. Todd Begg, Mark Begg, like, you name them. Well, you don't name them and I haven't owned them, but Phil Harvey and I'm not sure where the next step. I don't know where I go from here. It's really a quandary. And I got to figure out how to use this lock a little bit better, because I'm really sucking at the closing of it. So, yeah, I am super excited. And Eric, thank you very much for the deal. And you guys stay tuned. I will do more on this for sure. We'll talk about it a little more details. I'll get my thoughts more in order. I'm literally just opened it. It's been at my house now for as long as you've seen it. I literally got it from the UPS guy. I walked into my office and here we are. So give me some time to really let this sink in that I now own a Stan Wilson non-flipper flipper. Wow.